Hi everybody, welcome to this cute little project we're going to do right here in this private Facebook group. I'm going to take a minute and find the video here on my laptop. If you've taken a class with me, you know I say it every time. Just need to do that so I keep my hands in the camera. I've tried to get the camera a little closer because it's a smaller album, so hopefully we can see everything. Okay, and I'm going to take a little sip of water. I've got my chipboard cut. And in your kit, you have the cut chipboard as well. So let's go ahead and get out one piece of paper. I'm going to work on the trimmer. And I can't remember if it's going to take another sheet. Yes, it is. So let's take a second sheet of paper and we'll trim it because we're not going to need nearly all of this. And grab your two-sided tape, and along one of those sheets of paper, along the very edge, we're going to put a piece of that tape as close to the edge as we can. That's strong tape. I didn't want to let go of my finger. All right, that's good enough for me. So, got a really nice sharp pair of scissors. I hate to dull it down. They're really good. All right, so now we're going to take off that release paper. And you can see where the tape is. And so now along that edge, we're going to use that as a guide to tape our other piece. And then it should be a fairly straight connection of those two sheets of paper. All right, so now we'll go ahead and use this piece as our center for our spine. So I'm going to go ahead. I work with Fabrifix when I'm gluing my chipboard pieces down. It gives me a little time to wiggle them into place until I feel real comfortable that they're straight. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to leave about 1/4 inch between these two pieces of chipboard before I glue the left and then the right side. I always put a little glue in the middle just to help avoid any kind of bubbling. Okay, and then I'll move over to this side so I can do my other chipboard piece. Remember, we're doing the tall, so we're not laying it down 5.5, we're laying it down 4.5 wide. Should match up to your spine. Okay, I don't need all this extra, so I'm going to throw this in my trimmer. I'm just going to chop it, leave maybe about 1 inch-ish. I'll do the same thing on this side. And I don't know if we can use these scraps or not, but we'll lay them aside. Who knows? Maybe we can. All right, so if you have I went blank, a corner miter. What is that called? Let's see. I had a pencil. And I don't see one now. So this should be gold ink. That should show up on the black. Just going to give myself a little line to cut. And if you don't have a corner miter, you can just freehand at the angle. And by seeing this, it should give you an idea. See where that gap is? We don't want to cut right at that edge. You want to leave a little bit of room between the corner of that chipboard and where you cut. All right, I'm going to scooch over and do the same thing with these two corners. all the use I have tonight for my corner miter. So I'm going to take my scissors. I'm just going to trim right along that line that I traced. Okay, so there we have our basics, making our mini album base. So now, I am going to move this trimmer now. It's not bringing us any value. So now I'm going to take a bone folder, and I'm going to run it along this edge, and it's just going to help begin that paper to start to know it's going to fold over. Oops. Okay, this time I move on to my art glitter glue, or barely art glue. Those are the two white tacky glues that I've worked with. I'm going to just fold this over gently with my fingers and down. And I'll give it a good crease, and then I'm going to glue it down. And I moved to this because it's quicker to set up. So when we're in a class, it just helps me move on a little faster instead of babysitting glue. Okay, and again, put some glue down. And then give it a good burnish. That just helps make sure all that glue is making contact between the black paper and the chipboard. All right, and now on the longer edge, I always fold in the middle first and then to each side. Okay, take my bone folder, give it all a nice crease, glue it down. Whoops. Again, when I glue, I start in the middle and work my way to both sides. Give it a good burnish, make sure it's all making good contact. We'll do the same exact thing on the opposite side. I designed this album one time when I had a few scraps that were smaller. I thought it would sure be nice to use them. It was pretty paper. And thus this little cute 4.5 by 5.5 album with a really nice size spine was born. Okay, then I've got these little nubbins. I used to fold them under, but I've given up on that lately. And I just take my scissors and give it just a little cleanup snip. And you don't see the chipboard because it's all been covered up. But I just snip away that little nubbin if I can. Sometimes there's not much there to snip away. Just clean up that corner a little bit. Okay. And the other thing I do before I set this off to the side is I take my bone folder and I go along that groove I don't press down or you can poke a hole, more to a 45-degree angle. And we're going to need to see those grooves here in a little bit when we want to glue something onto it. All right, and here we have our little cover. So, so cute. So the next thing we're going to do is make our hinge that all of our pages are going to hang from after we put our pen in our art glitter glue so it keeps working for us. Okay. So for the hinge, we need it to be 5 by 11. So this is 11, and I'm not even going to bring this all the way in the camera. Just going to trim it to 5 by 11. So just took that off. Because what I am going to bring into the camera is our scoreboard. You need your scoreboard next. You don't need this, so it goes in our scrap pile. Okay. And let me do one more thing. There we go. Yep, we can see it really good. So we're going to do a bunch of score lines. I'll read them off to you. We're along the 11. So we're going to start at the 2-inch mark. And then we're going to move down every 1/2 inch. And we're going to make 4 hinges. So I'll talk you through it. So there's 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Okay, so let's count. We've got hinge, space, hinge number 2, space, hinge number 3. Oh, that's exact. Oh, we need 4. All right, so here's our space. 6.5, so then 7 and 7.5. So that should be 4 hinges. Let's count. 1 hinge, space, 2 hinges, space, 3 hinges, space, 4 hinges. Okay, I see I didn't get that all the way to the edge on a couple of them. Whoops. Okay, all the rest are good. All right, so that's all we need to do with our scoreboard for a little bit. So what we're going to do now is take the first 2 hinges, first 2 spaces, and fold them together, and then back and forth, and that's hinge number 1. We're going to skip the next one, take the next 2, fold them together, and back and forth. Now we've got 2 hinges. Skip the next one, fold the next 2, back and forth, 3 hinges. One more time. Skip, next 2, and back and forth. So that is our hinge. So let's flip to the back side because we're going to tape them together. I'm just going to use 2-sided tape right down the middle. I'm not going to tape over those scored lines that we just made. And it's good to give it a crease. Take off the release paper, and then we'll just pinch them together so we're gluing them down. And here's our next little opening, the 2 that we have folded together. Putting tape right down the middle. Whoops. Give it a good burnish. Just helps that adhesive grab to the paper. And then that release paper comes off a little easier. Do it again. Okay, one more time. Okay, and now that I've got them all taped together, I'm just going to give it all a good crease from the back. And then flip it over. And we've got all of our hinges. So I'll fold them back and forth a couple times. Make sure they've all got good movement. So all of our pages in our album are going to move back and forth nice and easy. Okay, let's clean that up. So now we need to glue the hinge into our album. And it doesn't matter that there's a longer tail here. It's all going to get covered up with paper. So for the center, it's going to be this gap is our middle. So we want our middle to be between the two grooves. And then we want it to be pretty even top and bottom. So I normally use my Fabrifix glue because it's going to allow me to slide into place. I want a good amount of glue because this is going to do a big job. It's going to hold everything in place. And I usually stand up when I put this on because I'm going to be looking top and bottom and my centering up between those grooved lines. That's close enough for me. So then I'll take my little finger in between the grooves there and just start to gently press. And there's some of my glue that oozed out. Which this glue, if you just rub it back and forth, it's going to rub away into a ball. Okay, and then the other thing I'm going to do is take my bone folder now. I can see where that groove is. And run it up and down there. And on the other side as well. Again, I'm going at a 45-degree angle. And then I can start to burnish into place. Just making sure everything's making good contact. Okay. So it looks like we don't cover this up. We'll cover this up with decorator paper in a little bit. So that's as far as we'll go here. So we can set it to the side now, let it dry really good before we start to bend this closed. Actually, it's bending pretty good. All right, so we'll set it aside and let it dry. And this is the way we're gonna do it now. When I'm working in camera and recording, rather than everything takes a cut and then a score, and to put a trimmer in and then take it back out and put a scoreboard in and take it back out, it gets really clunky. So what I prefer to do is have you grab some paper clips, and I'll probably work with my gold pen because I don't have a pencil. And we'll do all our cuts first, and then we'll come back and we'll do all our scoring. It really is a pretty slick way to do it. And then we'll put the album together. And it's not about fast, it's about not being clunky in camera here. It's about not being clunky. So I've got a big pile, you don't need all those paper clips. All right, so we're gonna cut the first we gotta cut our pages. So we need 4 pages that are gonna go on the hinges. So we should be able to get it with 2 sheets of paper. So we need them to be 8.5. Oh, these already feel like 2 different. So I'm going to do 8.5. And I'm going to do a little trim. So that I'm starting with 8.5. And then we need to turn it along the 11 and cut at 5 1/4. And again, 5 1/4. So we got this little strip left. So I'm gonna put that up in our scrap. So that's number 1 and 2. So let's make sure this one is sitting at 8.5, and it's a nice, perfect 8.5. So 5 1/4. And 5 1/4. And we're going to call these our insert pages. So we're going to paper clip all this together. Ooh, that's a big paper clip. All right, I know we're going to fold these about in half. Oh, my black pen is not going to work. Where's my gold pen? There it is. So instead of writing right smack dab in the middle, I'm going to go over here and write insert pages. And we'll just make that at the bottom of the pile. So now for set 1, the little cutesies that are going to hang on these pages, we're going to cut 2 that are 5 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to split this right in half at 4 1/4 along my 8.5, 4 1/4. And I need one that is 5 1/4. And I need another one that is 5 1/4. We're going to paper clip these together. And I'm going to write pretty much in the middle. I'm just going to call this set 1. All right. Now, let's see what the next one is. I'm going to turn on a little air in my room. Give me just a minute. And I may as well take a little sip of my water. Okay. All right, we should be able to get from this same piece of paper. So it's already, well, we don't know if it's exactly 4 1/4. So let's turn it along the 11, cut it to 5 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, and then we also need one that we're going to cut 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. We're going to call this set 2. Maybe. There we go. Okay, put that in the pile. Now we're on to set 3. So we want one, get another sheet of paper. And I'm going to go along the 11 and I'm going to cut it at 5 1/4. Then I'm going to turn it and cut it at 3 1/2. And now we need to cut one that is 4 by 5. And I think we can get it out of here. There's 5 by 4. We're going to tuck that into the pocket. This is going to be the pocket. So, paper clip. Set 3. There we go. All right, now we need set 4. We're going to cut 2 of them. And I think we're going to need to get another sheet of paper. Let me see. No, we can do it. So we're going to make our first cut at 4 1/2. So here's our 8.5. So we're scoring, we've turned it. We're going to cut it at 4 and, let me read it again. Yep, 4 1/2. And then we need 2 that are 4 1/4. Here's 1 and 2. Set 4. Big paper clip. right, set 5. Another sheet of paper. We need 3 of these. It's going to be a little waterfall. So let's cut it 4 3/4 along the 11. Got a scrap. So 4 3/4. Turn 4 1/4. 4 1/4. Well, that's pretty clean. So then I'm going to go 4 1/4 along the 8 1/2 and 4 3/4. So it'll be cute little 3 flaps. We may want to cut a closure for this waterfall. We'll see, because sometimes I've done 2 coming down and 1 coming up, and that might be the closure. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, here's the pen. We're making progress. Set 5. Okay, now set 6. This is going to be a different pocket. So we're going to go along. I don't think we can get it out of the scrap. Let me just make sure. We can. All right, get your scrap. Right now it's at almost 6 1/2. We're going to cut it to 6 by 3 1/2. Right in the middle, I'm going to write set 6. And when we assemble it, we may want to put a little insert in there. I don't have any notes for an insert, but we can do that. All right, set 7. We're going to cut 1 along the 11 at 5 3/4. Turn it 1/4 and cut it at 4 1/4. And that's the only one we're going to do. And this is set 7. This really does make up so super duper cute. Okay, now I need, oops, I'll bet we can get it out of our scraps here. Let's see. Yep, this my scrap here is 4 1/4. We're going to turn it by 3 3/4. It's got a little wavy bump to it. We'll go to the nicer end, 3 3/4. And we're going to do another one exactly like that. 4 1/4 by 3 3/4. Probably going to be a little gate fold. We'll call this set 8 with the paper clip. Okay, so I'm going to move all of this scraps out of our visual. Move our scrappies. And now we're going to get our scoreboard. So grab your scoreboard. And we're going to work the pile backwards. So we've got our set 8, and that's going to be the first one that we're going to do our scoring on. So get your scoreboard. If you're not quite ready, feel free to hit pause, get that scoreboard and set 8 and your bone folder. And what we're going to do is along the 3 3/4, score it at 1/2. We'll do the same thing on both of them. We're going to paper clip them again and set them to the bottom of our pile. We're going to start over. So set 7, we're going to go along the 5 3/4. Along 5 3/4. We're going to score it at 1/2. Okay. Set. Get me now ready. 6. This is a pocket. So we're going to score it at 1/2 along the 6, 1/4 turn, 1/2 again, 1/4 turn, and 1/2 again. So that'll be our pocket. Okay, here's set 5. So along the 4 3/4, we're going to score them at 1/2. All 3 of them. Yep, got to turn it along the 4 3/4 at 1/2. Okay, set 4. We're going to score these along the 4 1/2, not the 4 1/4, and they're very close, so double check. Here's my 4 1/2, score it at 1/2. 4 1/2, score at 1/2. Set 4. All right, set 3. All right, so set 3, cut. We're going to go 1/2, 1/4 turn, 1/2, and back to our 5 1/4, 1/2. So that's our pocket and our little insert. So we'll paper clip them together. Okay, set 2. The first, let's do the larger one. So along 4 1/4, so the narrower, we're going to score it at 1/2. And then this little guy, 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. So along the 3 3/4, we'll score it at 1/2. Just like that. That's set 2. Set 1. Both of them are going to be along the 4 1/4. We'll score them at 1/2. Like that. Okay, so now we've got our insert pages. We need to get them scored. So along the 8 1/2 at 4 1/4. Do that for all 4. Along the 8 1/2 at 4 1/4. Okay, so all of our scoring is done. So we will need the bone folder. We will not need the scoreboard. So we can move that out of our way. And now we're to assembly work. So the first thing we want to do is on all of our little hinges, we want to put tape on both sides. So let's do that next. There's one. I'm just kind of eyeballing my length and tearing. I don't always do it right, but close enough. And there's always a way to fix it. You do not want to go over that edge. You don't want to tape over it or it will stop it from moving back and forth. I can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it on this recording. My husband and my brother-in-law out. Every Thursday evening, they play cribbage. Neither of them are drinkers, but they're just laughing up a storm tonight. So I don't know what's so funny. Okay, so now, again, I'm going to go ahead and burnish both sides with my bone folder. Just kind of mashing that tape into the paper. Giving it all good contact. Okay, now I'm going to take my scissors, just clean up the edges a little bit. So I'm just going to snip them at an angle, and that takes off that kind of rough edge of my score tape, so I don't have to clean that up. Oh, you can't see it all. Here, see if I can. If I lay that way, can you see the angle? Okay, we got to do the other end. I'm just gonna get my cut and I'll lay it up in the camera. Can you see? Just like that, just a little angle snip. Okay, they flew everywhere. So you can kind of see when I lay it down, the edges here, just taking a little snip. All right, so now we've got our 4 pages that we're gonna adhere. But before we do, take off the paper clip. We're gonna fold each one of that scored line and give it a nice crease, front and back. Whoops, flew at me. Okay, now I usually turn it this way toward me, the hinges, not the album. I'm going to take off my front and my back because these are pretty easy just to lay down and then press down. All right, I'm going to open up, lay it to the back here, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball, is my edge even to the left and the right? I needed to slide that down just a tad. And then press down. There's page number 1. Do the same thing. Be patient with yourself. Take your time, line it up, and then press. So I've got it to the back. I'm looking at my little piece, edge left and right. That looks good. I'm going to press and close. This is one of the more forgiving or more accessible hinges to try to add your insert pages. And when it starts to get far away, I get my head right down where that is. I can't see. Sometimes black on black is a little challenging. Looks like I need to burnish that one again. Okay, last one. Okay. These have all gone on pretty easily. We'll see if it holds up with the last one. Okay, so there we go. We've got our pages. And they're all opening and closing fairly smoothly. So there we have it. So now we're ready to do our fun flaps and pockets and things like that. So because we worked backwards, we've got set 1 right on top. We're going to do the same thing. Fold where we scored and then give it a nice crease with our bone folder. So this first one is going to glue right to the left, and then we'll glue the next one right to the right. With these, I use my art glitter glue because I want it to set up a little faster. But I do like that it gives me a little bit of wiggle time. Okay. Right to the edges, but not over those scored lines, so that you let the pages still open and close. Okay, so there we've got set number 1 all done. Turn to the back, we'll do set 2. Right where we've scored, we're going to fold them and crease them. So for this one, we're going to put our large one first to the right. Again, don't go over that edge, that page that we just put in there. We want everything to still open and close. So then here is our closure piece. It's going to go to the left. Isn't that so cute? All right, right to the edge, and I'm just kind of eyeballing, centering it top and bottom, or close-ish. And then wipe away any extra glue that you can. It's going to dry clear and get covered up, but while you can, go ahead and wipe it away. Okay, so now we're at step 3. This is a pocket with a little insert. So let's take at our intersection of those scored lines and let's snip at an angle, kind of like we did with the cover. So just right at that intersection, we're going to snip those away. You see that right there? Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on all those scored lines. Fold them and give them a crease. So this is going to go at our bottom here, just like that. It allowed me a little wiggle time, and I needed to move down to my edge a little bit. And this guy goes right in there like that. All right, set 4. You know the drill. Fold at the scored line, give it a crease. And we're going to adhere this to the top and then the bottom. Okay. Looks like I need. Okay. And number 2. And just right where the fold is, it's going right to the edge of the one we just glued down that way. Those are looking pretty straight. Inside there with just a tap. There we go. And then this one's going to go at the bottom, and then it will be our closure like that. You pull it down, it's a nice surprise. 2 little flaps. Just making sure I'm going nice and straight along my edge, away from the page edge, so that it all still closes. There we go. All right. Now we're on set 6, which is a pocket. Cut it at the intersection. We're going the other direction now for our pocket. And I think when we're into decorating, we will cut a little cute insert to put in there. I'm trying to decide, I think we want it to go along here and then tuck that page in right there. Okay, so I've got glue on all my edges. A little on the inside. Push it up, don't want to glue over that page. Nice and straight. There we go. All right, before we move on, we should have a scrap. So let's measure. Our pocket is about 5, so I would say 4 3/4, and then by 4. Let's try that. Let's see if I've got that. That looks a little bigger. So let's just make one. 4 3/4 along the long piece, 4 3/4. And this is just a little shy of 4, and that's going to be fine with me. Let's see how that lays in there. Perfecto. So I'll write that on our little instructions. Insert 4 3/4 by 4. So that'll be on your uploaded page. If you ever want to make another one, you've got those dimensions. All right, we're on to 7. This one's just a little top flap. Fold it and burnish. And we're just going to glue it to the very top. Okay, and turn. Now we've got our last one. So this is kind of like saloon doors, if you can think of that. I'm going to fold and burnish, and then what we're going to do is just glue it to the middle, centered up. and the opposite side, kind of like if you were opening up those old Western movies, the saloon doors. Okay, I'm just kind of making sure it's nice and straight here against each other and not going over the edge of our page. And now we have all of our pages in with their pretty little inserts. Everything's opening and closing nicely. So that's it for the assembly. I know it takes a little time. You might have paused along the way or come back. That's great. That's the power of a recorded class. So that's our little album. Now the fun part is when we decorate it and make it all cute. So I'll see you back here for part 2. All right. Thank you guys. Good job hanging in there. Bye now.